Welcome, everyone, to a gentle journey along the Silk Road, where silk, spices, and stories weave east and west together. Settle in, let the camel bells guide you, and drift into this calming tale, perfect for sleep or quiet moments. In the comments, share what time you're watching and where you're from if you'd like. It's fun to know. Let's begin. Close your eyes and imagine standing on a sun-warmed path. The air thick with the scent of dust, spices, and the faint melodic jingle of camel bells in the distance. You're not just anywhere, you're on the Silk Road, a sprawling tapestry of ancient routes that stretched across continents, weaving the East and West together in a slow, vibrant dance of trade, culture, and human connection. This isn't a tale of battles or empires clashing, but of merchants with weathered hands, monks seeking wisdom, and wanderers chasing dreams, all carrying silk, spices, and ideas across deserts, mountains, and centuries. Tonight, let's embark on a gentle journey through this calm history, a story to lull you into sleep or keep you company as you work, its rhythm as steady as the footsteps of a caravan. Let the Silk Road unfold before you, a world of wonder waiting to carry you away. Picture the Silk Road not as a single highway, but as a vast, living network of trails, some etched by human feet, others worn by the hooves of horses and camels. Stretching over 4,000 miles from the bustling markets of Chang'an in China to the marble-paved streets of Rome, its origins trace back to the 2nd century BCE, when the Han Dynasty in China began sending their most precious treasure, silk, westward, a fabric so exquisite it was said to shimmer like moonlight. Silk was the lifeblood of this route, but it was only the beginning. Alongside it flowed spices like cinnamon, saffron, and cloves, delicate porcelain, jade carved into mythical beasts, and ideas as intangible as they were powerful, such as Buddhism, art, and inventions like paper. These were carried by travelers who spoke a dozen tongues, but shared a universal language of curiosity and exchange. Let's begin our journey in Chang'an now, Xi'an, a city that pulsed with life in the Han Dynasty. Its markets were a symphony of sounds, merchants haggling in sharp bursts, carts creaking under the weight of goods, and the soft rustle of silk being unfurled. Silk wasn't just cloth here, it was a marvel, a secret guarded as fiercely as a royal jewel. The Chinese had mastered sericulture, the delicate art of raising silkworms on mulberry leaves, coaxing them to spin cocoons of fine thread. A single bolt of silk could take months to create, each thread pulled from the cocoon of a tiny worm, boiled and woven by skilled hands into fabric that felt like a whisper against the skin. In Chang'an's markets, these bolts were displayed like treasures, their colors catching the light, deep reds, soft golds, and blues that seemed to hold the sky itself. Emperors in distant lands, from Persia to Rome, craved this fabric, and merchants knew its value. They loaded their camels with silk, tied tightly in bundles, and set out westward, their shadows stretching long across the plains. The journey was never simple. The Silk Road wound through landscapes that tested the spirit, none more daunting than the Taklamakan Desert, a vast sea of sand in what is now western China. Its name, some say, means, "Go in and you won't come out." A warning whispered by traders as they packed extra water skins and prayed for safe passage. Imagine walking through endless dunes, the sun, a relentless weight on your shoulders, the horizon shimmering with heat. Your camel's hooves sink into the sand, and the only sound is the creak of its saddle and your own steady breaths. Yet scattered across this desert were oases, towns like Dunhuang and Kashgar, where the air was cooler and the scent of water and greenery felt like a miracle. These were places of rest and renewal, where caravans gathered under the shade of date palms and travelers shared bowls of spiced lamb stew, flatbread, and stories from distant lands. In Dunhuang, you might pause at the edge of the desert and find a cave carved into a cliff, its walls alive with color. These are the Mogao Caves, a treasure trove of Buddhist art that still stands today. Holding over 400,000 square feet of murals painted by monks and funded by grateful merchants, picture a monk, his robes dusted with sand, dipping a brush into pigments of lapis lazuli and ochre, painting scenes of the Buddha's life or celestial beings dancing in the heavens. These caves were more than art, they were a testament to the Silk Road's power to blend faiths and cultures. Merchants passing through would leave offerings, silk, coins, or prayers, hoping for protection on the next leg of their journey. As you sit by a fire in Dunhuang, you might hear a trader from Samarkand describe the markets of his city, or a monk recount his pilgrimage to India, their voices weaving a tapestry as rich as the silk they carried. The Silk Road was a conduit for ideas as much as goods. Buddhism, born in India, found its way to China along these routes, carried by monks like Xuanzang, a figure whose journey reads like a quiet epic. In the 7th century, Xuanzang set out from Chang'an, a lone monk in simple robes, driven by a hunger for sacred texts. His travels took him across the Himalayas, through passes so high the air was thin and the cold bit into his bones. For 16 years, he wandered, collecting scrolls, debating with scholars, and facing dangers that would have turned back a lesser soul. Picture him pausing at a mountain monastery, his film's breath visible in the frosty air, copying texts by lamplight. When he returned to Chang'an, he brought not just scrolls, but stories, tales of distant kingdoms and philosophies that would shape Chinese thought for centuries. His journey wasn't just about faith, it was about connection, a bridge between minds separated by mountains and deserts. Let's follow the caravan westward, to the glittering city of Samarkand, in Central Asia. A jewel of the Silk Road by the 4th century CE, Samarkand was a crossroads where the world met. Sogdian traders, with their sharp eyes and multilingual tongues, haggled with Persian poets, Greek artisans, and nomads from the steppes. The markets here were a feast for the senses. Imagine walking through narrow lanes, the air heavy with the scent of saffron, cumin, and roasting meat. Bolts of silk unfurled in cascades of color, crimson, indigo, and gold. While nearby, a merchant weighed out cloves from the Moluccas, their sharp, warm aroma mingling with the sweetness of dried apricots. You'd hear languages blending like a song, Sogdian, Persian, Aramaic, and fragments of Greek, all carried on the breeze. The Sogdians were the Silk Road's master connectors, their letters written on paper, a Chinese invention, found centuries later in desert ruins, revealing a people who were practical yet poetic, always moving, always trading. What made the Silk Road so extraordinary was its slowness, its patience. This wasn't a route for the rushed. A bolt of silk might take years to reach its destination. They passed from one merchant to another, each adding their own mark to its journey. Imagine a trader in Kashgar exchanging Chinese silk for Indian pepper, which another carries to Baghdad where it's traded for frankincense from Arabia. By the time that silk reaches a Roman senator's villa, it's more than cloth. It's a story, woven with the dust of a dozen lands. This slow exchange wasn't just about goods, it was about trust. Merchants built relationships over years, their handshakes sealing deals that crossed continents. A Sogdian trader might never see Rome, but his silk would, carried by others who shared his dream of connection. Spices were as coveted as silk, transforming not just trade, but the way people lived and ate. Picture a merchant in a bustling market, opening a sack of cloves, their scent sharp and intoxicating like a memory of far-off islands. The cloves came from the Moluccas, a journey of thousands of miles by sea and land before they reached the Silk Road. Or consider saffron. Harvested from the delicate stigma of crocus flowers, each thread plucked by hand. A single ounce of saffron could cost a month's wages, its golden hue and subtle flavor marking it as a treasure for kings and healers. In medieval Europe, spices like pepper were so valuable they doubled as currency. A sack of pepper could pay a debt, secure a dowry, or bribe an official. These weren't just flavors, they were status, medicine, and magic, carried across the world by the Silk Road's tireless travelers. Let's linger in Baghdad, the heart of the Islamic Golden Age by the 8th century. This city was a beacon of learning, its streets alive with scholars, poets, and traders from every corner of the known world. The Silk Road brought paper from China, a revolution that changed how knowledge was shared. Before paper, texts were written on heavy parchment or fragile papyrus, but paper was light, cheap, and durable. In Baghdad's House of Wisdom, scholars gathered under flickering lamps, translating Greek philosophy, Indian mathematics, and Persian astronomy onto pages that had traveled from Chang'an. Imagine a scholar, his fingers stained with ink, copying a treatise on algebra, a word itself born from Arabic. The Silk Road didn't just carry goods, it carried the spark of human thought, igniting ideas that would light the world for centuries. The travelers were the soul of the Silk Road. Picture Marco Polo, Venetian who wandered these routes in the 13th century, his eyes wide with wonder at China's grandeur. He described cities larger than any in Europe, palaces of jade and gold, and markets overflowing with goods his readers could scarcely imagine. His tales, written in a prison cell years later, sounded like fairy tales to Europeans, but they were real, grounded in the dust and dreams of the Silk Road. Yet Marco Polo was just one of many. There were countless others, nameless merchants, pilgrims and nomads, who carried goods and stories alike. A Sogdian trader might share a fire with a Mongol herder, their laughter mingling as they swapped tales of distant lands. A monk might pause to pray with a Muslim merchant, their faiths different, but their journey shared. These small human moments wove the East and West together, stitch by stitch, over centuries. The goods weren't always luxuries. Glass from the Middle East, with its swirling blues and greens, dazzled Chinese buyers who had never seen such craftsmanship. Horses from the Fergana Valley, described as heavenly for their strength and speed, were so prized that China traded mountains of silk for them. Even everyday items, wheat, grapes, pomegranates, traveled the Silk Road, reshaping diets across continents. Imagine a Chinese farmer tasting wine for the first time, its tartness a gift from Persian vineyards. Or a Roman baker kneading dough with wheat from Central Asia. The Silk Road was a quiet force, blending cuisines, languages, and lives in ways that felt natural, inevitable. As we travel further, let's pause in Constantinople, the gateway to Europe, a city that sparkled by the 6th century as a bridge between worlds. Its markets were a riot of color and sound, with Chinese silk, Indian gems, and Persian carpets piled high. Traders haggled in Greek, Latin, and Arabic, their voices echoing through bazaars that never seemed to sleep. The Byzantine emperors adored silk, draping it over their thrones and wearing it as a symbol of power. But they wanted more than the fabric. They wanted its secret. Legend tells of two monks who, in the 6th century, smuggled silkworm eggs out of China, hidden in hollowed-out canes. It was a daring act, breaking China's monopoly and bringing sericulture to Europe. Slowly, silk weaving spread, looms humming in Byzantine workshops, another thread tying east to west. The Silk Road wasn't without its shadows. It was dusty, dangerous, and slow. Bandits lurked in mountain passes, and sandstorms could bury a caravan in hours. Disease, too, traveled these routes, most infamously the Black Death, carried by fleas on merchants' goods in the 14th century. Yet even this dark chapter speaks to the road's power. Nothing moved in isolation, and ideas were all passengers, carried by the same relentless flow of human connection. The Silk Road's legacy isn't in its perfection, but in its persistence, its ability to show that humanity, when curious and open, could build bridges across impossible distances. As centuries passed, the Silk Road began to fade, not because it failed, but because the world changed. By the 14th century, maritime routes were rising, ships carrying goods faster than camels could across deserts. Yet the Silk Road's spirit never died. It had already reshaped the world, blending cultures in ways we still feel today. The tea you sip, steeped in leaves from China, carries echoes of those ancient caravans. The spices in your kitchen, cinnamon, pepper, saffron, are the descendants of sacks carried across deserts. The stories you love, the philosophies you ponder, even the paper you write on, they all trace back to the Silk Road, a quiet force that made the world one. Now, let's return to that dusty path one last time. The sun is setting, painting the desert in hues of gold and amber. Ahead a caravan moves slowly, camels swaying, their bells a soft, hypnotic lullaby. You're part of something vast, a world connected not by force or haste, but by the courage of travelers who carried silk, spices, and dreams across continents. Their footsteps echo still, a rhythm as steady as your own breath. Let their journey carry you now into sleep, into peace, into the gentle flow of history. Rest well, or let this tale linger as you work, a reminder of how the world became one, step by patient step, along the Silk Road. Imagine a merchant waking at dawn in a caravanserai, a roadside inn where travelers found shelter. The air is cool, the stars still fading overhead. He checks his camels, their humps heavy with water for the journey ahead, and adjusts the packs of silk, carefully wrapped to protect them from dust. His breakfast is simple: flatbread, dried figs, and a sip of fermented mare's milk, a gift from a nomad he met days ago. As he sets out, he's joined by others. A Persian scribe carrying astrological charts, a Chinese pilgrim clutching a bundle of scrolls, and a Sogdian woman leading a string of pack horses, her laughter bright as she teases her companions. These travelers weren't just moving goods, they were moving lives, each step a story in itself. The goods they carried were as varied as the people. Beyond silk and spices, there were treasures like lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, its deep blue prized for jewelry and paint. Amber from the Baltic, warm and glowing, made its way to Chinese artisans who carved it into delicate ornaments. Indian cotton, light and breathable, clothed merchants in the heat of the desert, while furs from the steppes warmed them in mountain passes. Even music traveled the Silk Road. Lutes from Persia, with their haunting melodies, found their way to Chinese courts, where they inspired new songs. Imagine a musician in Chang'an strumming a lute under a blossoming plum tree, the notes carrying echoes of a Persian sunset. The Silk Road's markets were theaters of exchange, where goods and ideas mingled freely. In Kashgar, a trader might barter a bolt of silk for a sack of turmeric, its golden powder staining his fingers as he measures it out. In Bukhara, another might trade glass beads from Syria for a bundle of Chinese paper, its smooth surface a novelty to scribes used to parchment. These markets weren't just about profit, they were about discovery. A merchant might taste a new fruit, like a peach from Samarkand, its juice sweet and startling. A scholar might hear a poem in a language he didn't know, yet feel its rhythm in his bones. These moments, fleeting yet profound, were the Silk Road's true currency. Let's linger on the travelers themselves, for they were the heartbeat of this world. There was Rabban Bar Sama, an Nestorian Christian monk from China, who traveled west in the 13th century, seeking allies for his faith. His journey took him to Baghdad, Constantinople, and even Paris, where he marveled at the cathedrals and shared tales of the East. Or consider the women of the Silk Road, often overlooked but vital. Sogdian women, like Min Ne, whose letters were found in a ruined fort, ran trading networks, managed households, and wrote with sharp wit about their lives. Picture Min Ne in her tent, penning a letter to her husband, her words carried across deserts to keep their business alive. These travelers, famous or forgotten, were the threads that wove the Silk Road's story. The Silk Road also carried the seeds of invention. Gunpowder, born in China as a tool for alchemy, traveled west, its formula whispered from one alchemist to another. The compass, another Chinese creation, guided caravans through trackless deserts, its needle pointing north like a promise of home. Even the humble stirrup, born on the steppes, changed how people rode and traded, making journeys faster and safer. These inventions didn't just move goods, they moved progress, shaping a world that grew ever more connected. As we travel further, let's pause in Palmyra, a desert city in Syria that thrived as a Silk Road hub. Its sandstone arches glowed under the sun, and its markets buzzed with traders from Arabia, India, and Rome. Here you might see a caravan unload frankincense, its resinous scent rising like a prayer. Palmyra's queen, Zenobia, was said to have walked these markets, her presence commanding as she oversaw the flow of goods. The city's wealth came from its position as a crossroads, where east met west in a dance of commerce and culture. Imagine a Roman merchant here, tasting cardamom for the first time, its sharp warmth a revelation in a dish of stew. Let's continue our journey, lingering in Palmyra's vibrant streets a little longer, where the air carried the tang of myrrh and the chatter of traders from distant lands. Beyond frankincense, Palmyra's markets were a treasure trove of goods. From Indian cotton, dyed with indigo, to Chinese porcelain so delicate it seemed to glow in the sunlight. A trader might pause to admire a necklace of carnelian beads from India, their warm orange hue catching the eye, or barter for a bundle of cinnamon sticks. Their sweet woody sent a promise of warmth in dishes far from their Sri Lankan origins. Picture a local artisan, her hands skilled in weaving, creating intricate tapestries inspired by the patterns of Persian carpets, their threads blending stories of the East and West, her work a silent tribute to the Silk Road's power to weave cultures together. Palmyra was not just a stop along the route, it was a meeting place, a stage where the world's diversity played out in every transaction, every shared smile, every story told under the shade of a palm. As we move westward, let's pause in Damascus, another jewel of the Silk Road, a city whose markets were as legendary as its roses. By the 7th century, Damascus was a hub of trade and craft, its bazaars alive with the clink of coins and the scent of spices. Here, traders offered damask fabric, its intricate patterns a nod to the silk techniques learned from China, its name forever tied to the city's legacy. Imagine walking through these markets, the air heavy with the aroma of roasted pistachios, their green kernels, a gift from Persian orchards, or the sharp bite of sumac, a crimson spice sprinkled over flatbread. A merchant might display a tray of coral from the Red Sea, its pink branches gleaming like jewels, or offer a vial of rosewater distilled from Damascus's famed gardens, its fragrance a whisper of spring. These goods were more than items for sale. They were pieces of a larger story, each one carrying the weight of its journey, the hands that crafted it, the lands it crossed to reach this ancient city. The Silk Road's power was in its ability to transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. To make a simple meal, a celebration of distant lands. Picture a family in Damascus, gathered around a table, their meal enriched by Silk Road treasures, rice from India, spiced with turmeric and cumin, served with lamb glazed in pomegranate syrup, its tartness a gift from Central Asian orchards. A guest might sip tea infused with cardamom, its warmth spreading through their chest, each flavor a thread in the tapestry of trade. These moments, shared over food and conversation, were the Silk Road's quiet magic, a reminder that every bite, every sip, was a connection to a world far beyond their walls, a world made closer by the courage of those who traveled its paths. Let's linger on the travelers, for they were the soul of this story, their lives as varied as the goods they carried. In Damascus, you might meet a Radhanite trader. Part of a Jewish network that spanned from Europe to India, their ledgers filled with transactions in silk, spices, and gold. Picture him in the market, his robes a blend of Persian and Byzantine styles. Negotiating with a Chinese merchant for a bolt of silk, their words a dance of numbers and trust, their handshake sealing a deal that would echo across continents. Or consider the Uighur guides of Turfan, their knowledge of desert routes unmatched, their songs carrying the rhythm of the sands as they led caravans to safety. These travelers were more than merchants. They were storytellers, scholars, and dreamers. Their journey is a testament to the Silk Road's ability to unite the world, one step at a time. As we travel further, let's pause in Merv, an oasis city in what is now Turkmenistan, a hub that shone with the brilliance of Samarkand by the 8th century. Merv's markets were a symphony of scents and sounds, from the sweet perfume of roses to the clatter of copper being shaped into bowls. Here, traders from China might exchange porcelain for Afghan lapis lazuli, deep blue a treasure for artisans far and wide, while poets recited verses under the shade of mulberry trees, their words as rich as the goods around them. Imagine a scribe in Merv, his quill scratching across Chinese paper, capturing a tale of a traveler who crossed the Pamir Mountains, his words a bridge between the storyteller and the listener, his ink a blend of soot and gum carried from distant lands. Merv was a place where the Silk Road's currents converged, where goods and ideas flowed like the rivers that fed its gardens, a reminder that trade was as much about beauty as it was about profit. The Silk Road's markets were not just places of exchange, they were stages for human connection, where strangers became companions over a shared meal or a traded good. In Bukhara, a merchant might offer a handful of raisins, their sweetness a gift from the vineyards of Central Asia, to a weary traveler, their conversation turning to the stars above. In Herat, another might trade a bundle of Chinese porcelain, its surface painted with delicate flowers. For a sack of pistachios, their green kernels a treasure from Persian orchards. Picture a trader in Herat, his hands rough from years of travel, sharing a cup of tea with a newcomer, their laughter mingling with the scent of brewing leaves, their stories a bridge between their worlds. These small acts of kindness, these fleeting moments of connection, were the Silk Road's true wealth, the threads that held its vast network together. The Silk Road also carried the art of storytelling, its tales as precious as any spice. In caravanserais across the route, travelers gathered around fires, their faces lit by flickering flames, sharing stories of gods, heroes, and far-off lands. A Persian merchant might tell of Rustam, a legendary warrior whose deeds echoed in the wind, his strength a match for the mountains. A Chinese pilgrim might share the tale of the Monkey King, his tricks and triumphs a delight to listeners, his laughter ringing through the night. These stories traveled as far as the goods, carried in the hearts of those who heard them, retold in new languages, reshaped by new voices. Imagine a child in Buchara, listening to a tale of a dragon from China, its scales shimmering like the silk in her father's shop, her dreams filled with land she'd never see but could imagine, her heart stirred by the wonder of a world connected by stories. The Silk Road's goods were not just objects, they were stories in themselves, each one carrying the mark of its origin. In the markets of Khotan, traders offered jade carvings, their surfaces etched with dragons and lotus flowers. Each piece a prayer for prosperity, its cool touch, a comfort in the desert heat. These carvings traveled west, finding homes in Persian palaces or Roman villas, their beauty a reminder of the hands that shaped them. In the same markets, you might find carpets from Persia, their patterns a map of the weaver's dreams, their colors drawn from saffron, indigo, and madder root. Picture a merchant in Khotan, his stall lit by a single lamp, showing a jade pendant to a traveler, its glow catching the light, its story stretching from the mountains of Central Asia to the deserts of the West. A journey as long as the Silk Road itself. The Silk Road's influence reached even the smallest details of life, its touch as subtle as it was profound. In China, tea became a ritual, its leaves carried from southern hills to northern markets. Then west to Persia, where it was brewed with rosewater, its fragrance a reminder of gardens far away. In Europe, almonds from Central Asia found their way into pastries. Their nutty sweetness, a gift from distant orchards, a flavor that spoke of the Silk Road's reach. Even clothing changed. Chinese silk inspired Persian weavers to create their own patterns, intricate designs of birds and flowers that influenced Byzantine textiles, their threads a conversation across continents. These small changes, these quiet exchanges, were the Silk Road's legacy, a world made richer by the blending of its cultures. Let's pause in Herat, in what is now Afghanistan. A city whose turquoise tiles and vibrant markets made it a Silk Road gem by the 10th century. Herat's bazaars were alive with the scent of saffron and the sound of hammers shaping copper into lamps, their glow lighting the way for evening traders. Here, a merchant might taste a pomegranate, its seeds bursting with tart sweetness, or barter for a vial of attar, a perfume distilled from roses, its scent lingering on the skin like a memory of spring. Imagine a poet in Herat, sitting under a pomegranate tree, his words capturing the beauty of a caravan crossing the desert, his verses a tribute to the travelers who made the city thrive. Herat was a place where the Silk Road's beauty shone, where every good, every story, was a piece of a larger mosaic, a world woven together by the hands of those who traveled its paths. The Silk Road's travelers faced countless challenges, yet their resilience was its strength. In the Pamir Mountains, where the air was thin and the paths narrow, traders led their yaks with care, their breath visible in the cold, their eyes fixed on the distant peaks. These mountains, known as the roof of the world, tested every traveler, yet they also offered moments of awe. The sight of a snow-capped peak glowing in the dawn, the sound of a mountain stream singing its way to the valleys below. Picture a trader pausing to drink from such a stream, the water cold and clear, his heart lifted by the beauty of a world that felt both vast and intimate, his journey a reminder that even the hardest paths could lead to wonder. The Silk Road's legacy is in its quiet moments, the pauses between trades, the conversations by firelight. In a caravanserai near Kashgar, travelers might share a meal of pilaf, its rice studded with raisins and spiced with cumin, their hands breaking bread together, their stories blending like the flavors on their plates. A trader from India might describe the monsoons that fed his homeland's fields, while a nomad from the steppes speaks of winters so cold the rivers froze solid. These moments, simple yet profound, were the Silk Road's heart, the human connections that made its vast distances feel small, its differences feel like gifts. The Silk Road also carried the seeds of art, its beauty blooming in unexpected places. In the monasteries of Central Asia, monks painted manuscripts with pigments carried from distant mines. Their pages filled with tales of the Buddha or local legends, their colors as vibrant as the markets outside. Picture a monk in Turfan, his brush tracing the curve of a lotus petal, his mind filled with the stories he's heard from passing travelers, his work a blend of faiths and cultures that define the Silk Road's spirit. These manuscripts, carried west to Baghdad or east to Chang'an, were more than art, they were bridges, linking minds across continents. Their stories a testament to the power of shared beauty. The Silk Road's markets were alive with the promise of discovery, each stall a window to a distant land. In Samarkand, a trader might offer rosewater. It sent a gift from Persian gardens, used to flavor sweets or soothe weary skin. In Constantinople, families burned incense from Arabia, its smoke carrying prayers to the heavens, its fragrance a reminder of the desert's reach. Even the tools of trade, the scales used to weigh spices, the abacus used to tally profits, were carried along the Silk Road, their designs shared across cultures, their use a silent language of commerce. Imagine a merchant in Samarkand, his abacus clicking softly, his eyes meeting those of a trader from China. Their shared nod, a recognition of the road that brought them together, the road that made their world one. The Silk Road story is one of movement, not just of goods, but of ideas, dreams, and lives. In the markets of Kashgar, a trader might hear a new song, its melody carried from Persia, its rhythm echoing the hoofbeats of a caravan. In the libraries of Baghdad, a scholar might read a text from India, its words sparking a new idea, its pages a bridge between minds. These exchanges, small yet powerful, were the Silk Road's magic, the way it wove the world together, not with force but with curiosity, not with conquest but with connection. Picture a traveler pausing under a desert sky, the stars bright above, his heart full of the stories he's heard, the goods he's carried, the people he's met, his journey a testament to the Silk Road's enduring power. The Silk Road's legacy lives in the details, the small things that traveled its routes and shaped its world. In the markets of Damascus, traders offered damask fabric, its intricate patterns inspired by Chinese silk, its name a tribute to the city where it was woven. In the homes of Merv, families used bowls of Chinese porcelain, their surfaces painted with dragons, their beauty a reminder of the East. Even the spices in a trader's pack, nutmeg, ginger, turmeric, were more than flavors. They were stories, each one carrying the scent of its homeland, the hands that harvested it, the journey it made to reach a distant market. These small things, these quiet exchanges, were the Silk Road's heartbeat, a world made one by the courage of those who believed in connection. Let's linger a little longer in the markets of Bukhara, where the air was thick with the scent of spices and the hum of voices. Picture a stall piled high with nutmeg from the Spice Islands, its warm, woody aroma mingling with the sharp tang of ginger from India. A merchant, his hands stained with saffron, offers a pinch to a passing traveler, explaining its use in healing broths or golden breads. Nearby, a weaver displays bolts of cotton dyed with madder root, their deep reds catching the eye of a Persian poet, who sees in them the color of a lover's blush. These markets were more than places of trade. They were gatherings of souls, where a shared glance or a traded good could spark a friendship, a story, a memory that would outlast the journey. The Silk Road's roots were lifelines of culture, carrying the seeds of faith and art. In the city of Khotan, jade was carved into delicate figures of dragons and lotus flowers, each piece a prayer for prosperity, its cool surface a comfort in the desert heat. These carvings traveled west, finding homes in Persian palaces or Roman villas, their beauty a reminder of the hands that shaped them. In the monasteries of Central Asia, monks painted manuscripts with pigments carried from distant mines, their pages filled with tales of the Buddha or local legends, their colors as vibrant as the markets outside. Picture a monk in Khotan, his brush tracing the curve of a lotus petal, his mind filled with the stories he's heard from passing travelers, his work a blend of faiths and cultures that defined the Silk Road's spirit. The Silk Road's travelers were as diverse as the goods they carried, each bringing their own flavor to the journey. There were the Uighur merchants of Turfan, their knowledge of desert routes unmatched, their voices carrying the songs of their people as they guided caravans through the sands. There were the Jewish traders of the Rodhanite network, who moved between Europe, the Middle East, and India. Their ledgers filled with transactions in gold, spices, and textiles, their travels a testament to the Silk Road's reach. Picture a Rodhanite trader in a Samarkand market, his robes a blend of Persian and Byzantine styles, bartering for Chinese silk with a merchant from Chang'an, their negotiation a dance of words and gestures, their mutual respect a silent acknowledgement of the road they shared. The Silk Road's legacy is in its quiet power, its ability to connect without conquering. It wasn't built by kings or armies, but by ordinary people, merchants who braved deserts, monks who carried scrolls, nomads who shared their fires, their lives as varied as the goods they carried. Set out to change the world, but they did, one step at a time, one trade at a time. The Silk Road showed that connection is stronger than distance, that curiosity can bridge any divide, that a single bolt of silk or a pinch of spice could carry the dreams of a dozen lands. Its legacy lives in the tea you sip, the spices you cook with, the stories you tell, the world you inhabit, a world made one by the slow, steady work of travelers who believed in the power of exchange. Now, imagine yourself back on that dusty path, the desert stretching before you, vast and golden under a setting sun. The caravan moves ahead, its camels swaying, rebels a soft rhythmic song, a lullaby that carries the weight of centuries. You're part of this ancient story, a world woven together by silk, spices, and dreams. A world where every step was a step toward connection. Let their journey carry you now into sleep, into peace, into the gentle embrace of history. Rest well, or let this tale linger as you work, a reminder of how humanity, step by patient step, made the world one along the Silk Road.